Hey, everybody, welcome back to Project Overflow. And we are at our part 2 of the series on investing. Actually, we are just barely touching the surface. So, just a disclaimer here, we are not financial advice. So, please, if you need financial advice, please go to a professional. And over here is just two of us sharing our ideas and also what we're doing with our own money. Okay, so please do like and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell because you will get notified of our next video that we put on. Okay, so let's get back to the topic on investing. I think the last time we ended the video was actually talking about the various opportunities that are out there and how we differ in terms of looking at the different kinds of opportunities that are out there and how we look at each of them. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. I think what is risk tolerance? Okay, wow, that's a deep question. What is risk tolerance? I think let me just recap. The last time we talked about how much money do I need to start when it comes to investing. If you've missed that one, please go and watch the last previous video. Okay, and today we want to go to question 2. What is risk tolerance? Zuan, so what's risk tolerance?
I think I have a lot of stories on this, but I don't think it's appropriate for this video. I think the easiest way to know what is risk tolerance or risk appetite, right, is just to really and truthfully answer this question: how much money are you prepared to lose? How much money are you prepared to lose? Not if, or it's actually when this investment goes south. So the easiest way, I think the easiest example that I can actually come up with, which is not too controversial, is, let's say if you have a friend in need, right, and you don't know this friend out of the blue, and these friends just come up and say, hey, I'm really in trouble because COVID and lockdown. I need some money, and whatever amount would do, just help me, right? And then so how much would you give? How much would I give? So whatever amount that I give is the risk tolerance, right? that I will use. That means I'm okay to part with this money. So for some people it can be 100 ringgit, some people it can be 1,000 ringgit, some people it can be even 10,000. Who knows? Because I also know of a lot of generous people, right? So for me, is the easiest way to go about risk tolerance is when you put it into this investment vehicle, or when you start with this, you're ready to say goodbye to it. So that's how I assess my risk, the risk tolerance. What about you, Eugene?
I do see it again very differently. I think risk tolerance, yes, on one part of it is, when you're actually making the investment, you need to know that any form of investment has got risk. Okay, but how do you deal with that? Is your risk tolerance, for example, right? You put your money into a project and you cannot sleep every single day you are looking at it, then your risk tolerance to that amount of money is still not good, even if it's only 100 ringgit. And if you continuously look at it and you cannot let it go, and it now eats your life up, what you do on a daily basis, right? So I know some people who invest in the stock market, and they put 100 ringgit onto a stock, and then now they're trembling, and every 5 minutes is worse than, their Facebook, checking their Facebook. They constantly look at the price. And if that's the case, then, the risk tolerance is actually zero in that sense. So I would look at risk tolerance is, how much money that you are willing to put into an investment and still be able to sleep peacefully at night. I think I'll look at it that way, right? So, so rather than say an exact amount or a certain amount, because the appetite or the tolerance actually grows with two things. One is experience. That means the more your experience in putting money into investment, the more appetite or the more risk adverse you would feel, because anything that is new, you're obviously very, so to speak, kanjiong, okay, so very excited, okay, or very worried, okay. But the more you do it, you get used to it. Second is education. The more you understand about the investment portfolio you're putting it in, the least worrisome you will be. Of course, in terms of the amount of money you have versus the amount of money you put out for investment is also very important. So the moment you get that in place, then I think that appetite will actually be growing more and more. Yeah. Yeah, so that's me. But talking about risk appetite, it also really depends on what kind of investment you're putting it in, right?
Yep.
Right. So, for example, Zuan was saying that you were saying that, hey, you out of the blue, someone comes and borrows your money, then that kind of risk appetite must be 100%, meaning you must be able to forego it. If you're actually lending someone money, then my mother always taught me this, right? My mom always says that whenever if she's willing to lend the money away, she already is in her mind that money is gone, and whether people pay her back or not, that's not never the case of contention. So I think that I've taken that into advisement, and if I cannot actually do away with that money, then I'd rather not lend it, because it may sour that friendship.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what it is. So risk tolerance. I think what else do you have to say about risk tolerance?
I think combining both is in terms of what you've mentioned as well. It's not just the money that you're able to risk. I think very important also is your time. If you're just looking at the chart all the time and it just or even not just at the chart, or just worrying whether did I make the right decision, is my money gone, is it going to be scam, and all these things, I think then that is also part of the risk appetite or risk tolerance, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if it causes you to lose sleep, distressed, agitated, and even worried, right, anxiety, then it's something that we have to relook at, because investing, the whole purpose of investing is so that we don't have to look at it, right? Which is money works harder for us. So I guess that would also be one of the questions to really ask before even stepping into it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that leads us to the next question, which we will answer basing on this question of risk tolerance, would be, what should I start investing in, right? So instead of looking at one particular portfolio, I think it's very important for us to do that due diligence, or DYOR. Okay, so there's acronyms for everything nowadays. So I'm going to teach you this new acronym. If you don't know it, it's DYOR. Do your own research. Okay, so DYOR. Okay, so if you are going to be putting money or putting assets, okay, so remember the money that you have it's your asset, and if you're going to place asset into something and trust something that it will now make you money, then make sure you're doing sufficient enough research on the vehicle itself, the people who are running it, and whether how secure it is, whether other people had opportunities or of being of getting their money back, is withdrawal a possibility. So there's all these different questions, and I think in probably some other videos in the series we'll talk about a checklist possibly on when you're doing that due diligence, what question you should be asking. But definitely let's look at this. Okay, what should I start investing in?
Start with what you understand.
That's a good advice. Okay, so what do you mean by that?
Yeah. If you understand how fixed deposit work, okay, then put some money into fixed deposit, watch it work, and once you're okay with that, then move up to something else. If then maybe people tell you, oh, mutual funds very good, or even unit trust, right, which is for unit trust, then if you cannot for me is take time to understand what is it, okay, how does it work, ask the questions. It's not just just put money, and what is the purpose of unit trust, because because if you understand unit trust, every unit trust or portfolio, they have something what we call a prospectus or a product fact sheet, right? So take time to look at it. If then you understand what you are investing into. If then once you understand, then just start, right? For unit trust, I think you need about 1,000 ringgit to get a share, something like that. I'm not too sure, but this is from what I remember. So if that is okay with you, then start with that, see how it turns out. So that by understanding. Start with what you can understand. For me, for the longest time, I've been hearing one of my examples. I've been hearing for the longest time, like 5 years ago, right? People talking about crypto and blockchain and even Bitcoin. Back then, I mean, I think in the most recent videos as well, if you really catch me in one of those videos, I actually said I don't understand Bitcoin to be exact, but I understand blockchain, I understand crypto, just that I don't fully understand where Bitcoin is going. So from that video, actually, we had a behind the scene conversation, Eugene and I, and he said maybe it's time to do your own research. Then I actually did. I went and do some research and whatnot. I find crypto to specifically Bitcoin to be a very, very interesting, very interesting. I wouldn't say asset, but an interesting vehicle to look into and to invest. So I started with my journey with Bitcoin, and after understanding it, and depending on which platform, I started with 100 Sing dollars. That's what I do in starting it. So how it goes is if you guys know, is not going anywhere. It's actually dropping. So it's just another experience that start with things that you can understand. If you don't understand, then take time to do your own research. If it interests you, it suits your risk tolerance or appetite, then start, right? Yeah. And this is how I would approach it. What about you, Eugene?
I think I like what Zun was mentioning, even, and you would hear this on the base level of what we're talking about when we're talking about personal financing is that you need a portfolio. You actually need to diversify your investment to depending on the needs and depending on where you are in life, right? So for example, for me, I have portion my assets in fixed deposit. Okay, even in fixed deposit. Let me give you an example, right? So prior to being in the bank, my parents always told me, hey, if you have enough money, then put it in fixed deposit. You need about 1,000 ringgit to put into a fixed deposit for a year, right? And so I the ang pao money and the piggy bank money and all that, right? So in the jar, so we deposit into the bank book, and then we will move it into a fixed deposit when it hits $1,000. Okay, so we kept doing that, and every year we went to renew it. Once a year, my parents used to take us to the bank, and we'll do that, right? So it was more of a practice than anything else. But when I started to understand what compounding interest was, I started to look at fixed deposit very differently. And so again, do your own research, right? So you imagine, right? If you are paid 3.5%, okay, let's say 3.5% for a 1 year fixed deposit, that means you're locking the sum of money for one entire year. And after that 1 year, they'll pay you 3.5% above and beyond the money that you put in. So $1,000 will get you 3 ringgit 75 cents, right? So if you 3.5%, yeah. So 1,000 will get you 37.50.
3 ringgit and
3 ringgit 75 cents. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, so small, it's so terrible. Okay, but if you look at it that way, right? Even with that, can you maximize your investment? I think you can. So let's say, for example, if you have 1,000, then of course start with that, right? But if you have 5,000 ringgit, do you know that you can actually place it into a 1 month FD, and you can actually renew that FD cert by compounding what you earn from the 1 month placement that you have, and then you're adding your new sum plus the compounding interest. It actually ends up to be more over 12 months. Okay, not a lot more. 3.5% is already very little, right? But not a whole lot more. But the compounding interest of month after month, because let's say the first month you put in 5,000 ringgit and you made, let's say 2.8% or whatever, 2.9%, and then you kept doing that, and you kept adding on 6,000, you kept adding that on. Over time, the compounding interest actually works out to be much more. Secondly, I also learned that if you split up, instead of putting, maybe you have 20,000 now and you're lazy about it, you just put in 20,000. What will happen is, if you had any emergency, you needed to take that out. Now, koyak. Koyak means, now you're in dilemma, because if you took out your 20,000 FD fixed deposit certificate and you went to redeem it in the middle of that term, you will get zero interest for it. But instead, if you broke it up into 5,000 pieces, 5,000 per piece, and you have 4 pieces of 5,000, that makes 20,000, and you put it onto a monthly auto renewal, whereby it will add the sum that you have back into your cert. Okay, so it's compounding all the time. Then you have two things. One is flexibility. The other one is you begin to understand what compounding interest is. Okay, so just even with that alone, you can see that if you do enough research, you can actually maximize the earnings from your investment. Okay, so similarly, with Bitcoin and all that, I got into Bitcoin much earlier, but obviously at that time full of doubt as well. It was much lower. Now on hindsight, I would have put more money into it, but I didn't. Okay, so I can't go and lick those old wounds. Okay, but what I can do now, and that's for all of us, when things are really unsure, the risk is high, and therefore you dabble with it. Like for example, Zuen, now he's new. He's putting in $100 and he keeps putting in $100, right? So and then he's starting his portfolio now. But after a while, you may think that now Bitcoin sits at around, as we speak today, it's 30, 40,000 or whatever. So but if you actually understand the technology and where the world is going, people are looking at it to go to $1 million, per coin. Okay, so that is, how many X is that? I can't even tell you how many X. I can't even learn to count that amount of X's there are. So if that's the case, then how much would you put in and park in and start putting into your portfolio, rather than putting a big sum in there to start, like what Zuen is doing, putting 100 Sing, and periodically putting it in, so that you dollar average cost down the price, because you could put 20,000 in now, and then 10 years later put 20,000. It's dollar averaging cost up, not down, right? Because the prices of Bitcoin will skyrocket, right? So, but if you keep putting it in, you're actually, when you reach your next 20,000, you would have now averaged it down, because you're putting it periodically and you keep putting it like a forced savings. So I think that form of investment, start where you are, start small, but start. I think that is the advice, or that's the thought that I have. My advice to my kids anyway. I'm not making any advice here on this channel, but that is the advice I give to myself, and that's the advice I give to my kids. Okay, start now. I think that's a question we'd like to answer. Okay, so